Hey, how's it going everybody? It's your boy, and well, I'm in lockdown. I'm not able to go to work because of this, and as a result, I have free time to make more videos. So I thought, well, I might as well make a video on the present situation that we now find ourselves in the world. The WuFlu has basically shown just how selfish and stupid people are. And there was a brilliant quote that I saw on Twitter from Men in Black. Tommy Lee Jones is sharing some wisdom with Will Smith, and he says, "A person is smart. People are dumb, panicky, dangerous animals, and you know it." And that's what we've seen, especially in this country, which has made the government even more draconian in order to combat the disease. Now, don't get me wrong, the British government themselves have made their own mistakes, which I'll get into, but a lot of the British people have just been irritating, to say the least. This has happened pretty much everywhere, just gratuitously buying countless amounts of stock, most of it useless, which could be used by other people. So, for example, this happened a lot all over the world, but especially here. People buying toilet paper, people buying pasta, but with no pasta sauce for whatever reason, hoarding it for themselves, fighting over it. I've seen clips in London with people literally fighting over scraps of food, when we could easily just be buying a little bit here, a little bit there, to try and save a bit for everybody, a bit of civic duty, respect, dignity has all just disappeared because, well, it's fight or flight now, isn't it? People are kicking in with their survival instincts. So I guess rather than try to work together, it's dog eat dog. And it's selfish, and it's not the actions that we should be doing. What we should have been doing was not going out there and panic buying, instead trying to be, somewhat smart, somewhat rational about how we go about getting supplies. And that means trying to ration. That means buying certain foods that are of obvious requirement and not just overstocking on stuff you'll probably never eat, depending on how long this disease lasts. So why are you prepping as if the apocalypse is going to happen and it's going to be years and years and years? Come on, guys, save some for other people who need it as well. But not only that, people have been ignoring the advice of the government for weeks now in regards to self-isolation and how to go about doing their business when they're out and about in public. For example, people have been congregating in parks, they've been jogging in groups, they've been hanging out in groups. I even saw on Twitter there was one police unit that had to break up a 20+ person barbecue party. Like, seriously, what are these people doing? They're asking for trouble. The more you indulge in this behaviour, going out there carelessly, hanging around in groups and going to parties and doing this, that and the other, the more you're going to spread the disease and the longer it's going to last. This is what the government and the health service and the police have been trying to tell people, but they're just not listening. For those of you who remember on the last podcast episode that I did with Chicago, Brendan O'Neill, of all people, has been engaging in this behaviour, this sort of, how dare they tell me what to do? How dare they tell me to stay indoors? How dare they close my pubs down? It's my right to go out there and spread diseases whether I want to or not. I don't care about the risks, and neither should you, because our freedoms are at risk. Maybe you should have stopped and thought about that before you started being reckless, because now the government have to really clamp down so you guys can take the hint that, drastic measures are needed. And not only that, you're probably making it easier for them to make the case for, well, you guys can't even look after your own selves, why should we trust you? Therefore, we should keep these draconian rules so that we can basically run your lives for you, because it's pretty clear that the British people, in fact the world's population, are simply too stupid to have a life of freedom and liberty. So you're making the case for the authoritarian to keep their authoritarian measures. Thanks a lot, idiots. Not only do we run the risk of being infected by you lot, our rights could be trampled on because you can't be trusted. Now, don't get me wrong, there has been some good moments. There's been some really heartfelt things that I've seen. For example, musicians playing music to lift the spirits of their community. In fact, there was one it was either Italy or it was Spain. There was a guy playing the piano, admittedly playing music I don't like, Celine Dion, but a saxophone player on the other side of the street joined in and they were just having a good time. Stuff like that really warms the spirit, shows that, there is a community feeling in a lot of places, despite the animal-like nature of a lot of people at the moment. And also, there was a funny story of, I think this was in Spain, of friends or just neighbours, they may not have even known each other, playing Battleship and shouting out to each other where their ships were or where they wanted to bombard the grid. Stuff like that, it does warm your heart and knows it's not all bad out there, to be fair. But of course, unfortunately, I wish I could say that politics was not being involved in any of this, but it has been. We have seen on Twitter and online, communists have been out in force trying to make excuses for the Chinese government, telling us not to criticise China because that's criticising the people, and if you criticise the CCP, therefore that means you're criticising all of China and the people of China, when that couldn't be further from the case. When you try and say, well, the flu is from China, this disease emanated from there, oh, that's racist apparently, even though you're just speaking the truth. They're saying this is where it's come from. The CCP are the ones who made it worse, because let us not forget, they're the ones that could have told the whole world before any of this escalated there was going to be a problem, that there was a disease that has taken hold of Wuhan, and they're going to just make sure that everybody's aware of this, and they've made a mistake but they're going to rectify it in any way they see fit. So just prepare, guys. You may need to close borders, you may need to limit access to and from China, you may need to prepare extra supplies. No. They've got to save face. They had to save face because the CCP can't be seen to make any errors. That's how insecure they are as a authoritarian regime. You can basically do whatever they want. But no, you can't mention any of that because that's racist. You can't mention any of that because it's just wrong, you know. Look at how bad America and Britain have dealt with the issue. Look how bad Italy is right now. Look how good China is. Don't mention any of the things about welding people shot in their own apartment buildings. Never mind the fact that hotels are collapsing. Never mind the fact that they're probably lying about the extent of the virus's damage to their own people, where we've even heard reports that millions have died, not thousands. Whether or not that is true, I don't know. We question them, that's somehow wrong, but they question our governments, and that's okay. Really, communists, is that the hill you want to die on? I mean, the World Health Organization too have been largely useless, telling us not to call it this, not to call it that, because that's racist. And it's very clear that they're pretty much in league with China and are trying to make it out not so bad over there. But the whole thing about criticising the CPs, criticising the people, the whole, don't mention where the virus came from is racist thing. It's just so they can stop criticism of communism and the CCP in general, because they know that if more people are tuned in on who actually messed this up, which system caused this in the first place, then it doesn't look good for their ideology, does it? And as for the British government, oh my god, where do I even begin? I can spend all video going on about the CCP, but it's not like my government have done any better at all, really, have they? First, this whole herd immunity thing. It was never going to work, guys. I understand the logic, I understand what you were thinking. No, leftists, it was nothing to do with genociding old people. Why the hell would the Conservatives genocide the main demographic that vote for them? Did you ever think about that? No, you didn't think about that, otherwise you wouldn't be saying those things, would you? No. It was just going to spread this disease even further because it's just so contagious. It's not like SARS. WuFlu is so contagious, it spreads quickly. Herd immunity probably wouldn't even happen because so many of us would be infected. The only way you're going to get herd immunity from this is if we get a vaccine. It's common sense, but of course, common sense isn't so common, is it? And of course, in the opening weeks, travel to and from Britain was being unrestricted still. People walking into airports without being checked, without being screened. Yes, I know it's difficult to screen for a disease, but you've got to do something, anything, to make sure that precautions are being taken, especially since people from infected areas were coming to the country. In fact, I believe it was 2 Chinese tourists in York, of all places, that actually brought the virus to Britain. Yeah, we really should have taken more precautions now, shouldn't we? And now it's gotten to the point where the army potentially is coming in. In fact, I've seen pictures of the army in London, and I've heard that the army are even preparing to help out hospitals across Greater Manchester, where I am. So, well done, Britain. We really did well, didn't we, with this one? But look at the economic side of this. Whole businesses could potentially collapse because they're not getting any business, nobody's working, and not only that, governments are borrowing millions and billions of dollars and pounds just to make sure that businesses stay afloat, that the economy is stable. At the end of all this, taxes are going to go up, aren't they? Because how else are we going to pay all this debt off? I mean, the British government is saying, we've got loads of money, everything will be fine, we'll be able to fund the pandemic all the way through to its end, and it's like, well, where are you getting the money from? I assume they're borrowing it, and well, we're going to have to pay that back, and God knows how long that's going to take, and that's just going to mess the economy up even more. But I do know that there will be an end in sight, and I think as soon as summer starts to arrive, as the temperature rises, I think things will start to improve. I think as long as we keep on top of it, as long as we heed the advice of the experts who know what they're talking about, about social distancing, isolation, all the other common sense stuff. In many ways, we were long overdue something like this, if you think about it. We've been lucky that a lot of the major disease outbreaks in the world were largely epidemics, not pandemics. And now, well, we're dealing with one. I mean, will this change cultural attitudes in countries? Will this change laws in countries? Will this make people more likely to fend for themselves, to realise, well, I can't just rest on my laurels and expect everything to be given to me. I need to actually have some skills in order to look after my family and myself. Will we be seeing governments becoming more draconian and authoritarian, or will it be the opposite? Will they release the powers that were granted to them to fix this issue, or will they keep it? Who knows? It's very worrying, but I think only time will tell what the end results of all this will be. So anyway, it's been your boy, and I'll see you later.